Hey guys, it's Camilla. Welcome back to my channel. I've been noticing a lot of comments on my videos and I've gotten some DMs on Instagram asking me to do a stats video, so I figured I'd film that today. But before I get into any of my stats, I just want to say that these are the stats that worked for me and got me into colleges, but you definitely don't have to do all or any of these things to get into the exact same schools. I have friends that did wildly different things and they got into very similar schools, if not the same ones. So with that being said, these are the stats that got me into Columbia, UPenn, Brown, Berkeley, Georgetown, UCLA, Northeastern's Honors College, BC, BU, Michigan, NYU, Middlebury College, McGill University, which is in Canada, and I'll get into this later, but I did the IB diploma program, which is why I applied to international schools. I also got into Fordham, Skidmore, and Binghamton, which was my state school, and I was waitlisted at Northwestern, UNC, Cornell, Harvard, Amherst, Princeton. I didn't apply up to any of these waitlists, and I was rejected at Dartmouth and Tufts. Before I get into my scores and my activities, I just want to give an overview about where I went to high school and what my high school was like. I went to a public school in New York City, specifically in Queens, and this was a 7th through 12th grade school. I applied when I was in 6th grade, and to get in there was an interview and there was also an exam. But the school was very tiny. There were only about 500 kids between the 7th through 12th grade, and I ended up being valedictorian of my graduating class. Our school was also a IB school. If you aren't familiar with IB, it's pretty similar to AP, except we do graduate with 2 diplomas. So I graduated with the IB diploma and the high school diploma. And when you do the IB diploma program, you have to take a certain number of IB classes, while I believe that AP, you can choose whichever ones that you want. For IB, you are also restricted to a certain number of standard level or SL classes and higher level classes or HL classes. And you also have to take theory of knowledge and write an extended essay, which is kind of like a thesis, and I wrote mine on history. I'll put my classes over here, but I took chemistry SL, math SL, visual arts HL, history of the Americas HL, theory of knowledge, English literature HL, Spanish SL, and those were all of the classes that I took. In terms of college credit, IB classes, if you take an HL and you get a 6 or a 7, 7 being the highest score, you get 6 credits at Columbia specifically, and if you take an AP class and you get a 4 or a 5, then you get 3 credits. So IB classes are a little bit longer than AP classes, and I guess that's why we get more credits for them. Moving on to my scores, I got a 1530 on my SAT with a 780 in math and a 750 in reading. I also took the PSAT in 11th grade and I got a 1450, which made me a National Commended Student and a Recognition Scholar. My subject tests, which I think that they've taken out, don't exist anymore, but if they do, I got a 750 on Math 1, a 780 on Math 2, and a 730 on Spanish listening. I also got a 710 in chemistry, but I didn't submit that to any of my schools. And in terms of timeline and when I took all of these things, I was super bad with standardized testing. I didn't want to do it. And so I took the SAT twice, and the score that I submitted was my senior year, or the summer before my senior year, and all of my subject tests were from the same day in October of my senior year. The only IB score that I had when I applied to college was a 6 out of 7 in IB chemistry, and that was because I took all of the other IB exams during my senior year. And also my GPA is another thing that I want to explain before I give you any numbers. Because I went to an IB school, the grades weren't like A, B, C, D, etc. F. We had grades on a 1 through 7 scale, and so basically the conversion roughly was like a 96 to 100 was a 7, a 91 to a 95 was a 6, I believe an 85 to a 90 was a 5, and so on. I had a majority of 7s and a couple 6s, and so I got it converted by my guidance counselor, and it was basically a 4.0. We didn't have weighted GPAs, it was just like a plain GPA. And so I guess I graduated with a 4.0, but again, it was in a 1 through 7 scale, so I don't have an exact number. Awards, like I mentioned before, I was the valedictorian. I also got a very small Excellence in Spanish prize during my sophomore year, and I was also awarded the Brown Citizenship and Scholastic Endeavors Award. Outside of school, I also got the National Piano Guild High School Diploma. Every year I had to take an exam in piano where I memorized pieces, played scales, etc. And I guess since I did all of those years worth of piano exams, I ended up getting a diploma in it. I don't know. And going on to my activities, I had more than 10 activities and the Common App only lets you put 10 down. So I submitted a resume with all of my scores, activities, other extracurriculars, and so I'll put that here. But the 10 that I did put on my Common App were being on the varsity soccer team, even though I wasn't very good. I wrote on the school newspaper. I was a part of Helping Hands for a bit, which was a community service after school program. I also co-founded a sewing club with one of my friends at the time. Pretty lame, I know. Outside of school, I did a couple of free programs, and one of the best programs that I did outside of school was a high school law program at Columbia. If you're from New York City, I would definitely recommend. It's completely free and super educational. I also did a free program at NYU where I learned about entrepreneurship and coding. Also a great program. I did a summer debate program at Harvard. I also volunteered at MIT Fund, which was a not-for-profit that taught middle school children to design thinking and entrepreneurship. And so I basically mentored middle school students 3 times a week. And I worked at the same tutoring center that I work at now, and I volunteered at the Rotary Club in Ecuador, specifically in their microcredit program, and I also volunteered during the earthquake in 2016. And I also did piano since I was 4 years old, so that was also on my college application. And the last thing that I put was that I was a scorekeeper for the boys basketball team. I really liked watching basketball, wasn't good enough to play, so I just was the scorekeeper / manager of the team. In terms of recommendations, I got a recommendation from my math teacher, my history teacher, and my Spanish teacher. I wanted to show that I was a well-rounded student, and these were the teachers that I was closest to during my time in high school. Those are basically all of my stats. I want to move on to a couple of tips that I have for you guys writing your applications. The first tip that I want to give is that your Common App essay does not have to be extravagant at all. I wrote about K-dramas and watching YouTube videos and Duolingo, which is a language learning app, and I mean, as you can tell, it wasn't super like I cured cancer or something like that. And I think a lot of people try to write about something that they think is meaningful, and they get lost in the way of writing their entire essay. And the main thing that your essay is supposed to do is show your personality, show your passion. So when you're writing your essay, I recommend that you choose 3 traits about yourself that you want to emphasize. So like, for example, that you're hardworking, or that you're super curious and a quick learner, or things along those lines. And that's what I tried to do with my essay and the different anecdotes that I just mentioned earlier. And when you're writing your essay, you have to make sure that your essay is about you. Don't write about your friends, don't write about your parents, write about you and who you are as a person and how you've grown through the past couple of years. Another thing that I want to mention about supplements is that when you're writing your supplements, make sure that you're picking something unique about the school. For example, Columbia has the core curriculum, and basically the core is like a set of classes that you have to take to be able to graduate. And it is a feature of Columbia that made me choose Columbia, but if I had written my whole supplement on it, I definitely wouldn't have gotten in. Another thing is, like, if I'm applying to Columbia and I'm writing about New York City, that can also be applicable to NYU or another school in the city. So definitely don't just write about things that can be applied to different schools or something that all the other applicants are going to write about. So maybe pick professors, pick clubs and organizations on campus that you are interested in and might want to join if you weren't admitted. If you're a freshman or a sophomore or even a junior, please join clubs that you're actually passionate about. When I was a freshman, I wanted to join everything because I thought that that would make the perfect college application. When in reality, as you can tell, like I mentioned before, I couldn't even put all the things that I had done because they weren't really meaningful to me. So I just left them off of my Common App, and they're on my resume, but I wasn't even able to put them on the actual application. College admissions officers can tell if you're just doing something to do it and make your application look good. You don't have to fill up the 10 slots of activities. If you have 5 or 2, maybe just one activity that you are super passionate about, I think that's a lot more meaningful than like 2 months in this club and 2 months in another club that you weren't really passionate about throughout high school. And I want to close this video by saying that even if you don't get into your dream college, you're going to end up where you're supposed to be. College is honestly what you make of it. You can go to a name brand school, but if you don't take advantage of the resources, it's not really going to make a difference. And you can go to a community college and take advantage of your professors and your clubs and all the resources that you have, and you can do amazing things. So obviously, college application season is very stressful. Getting into college is very stressful, but you need to take a step back and realize that where you go to college isn't really going to define who you are as a person, and it's not going to really define how hardworking or passionate you are as a student. So best of luck with college application season, and please let me know if you have any questions or concerns that you would like me to answer in future videos. I want to be of any help that I can be during this stressful time of the year. So those were my stats and a couple of the tips that I have for you guys. But yeah, I will see you in my next video.